Welcome to this Calming the Racing Mind mindful breath meditation. It's going to be a very simple process where we're going to use our awareness and placing our attention and focus on the breath, as well as understanding what to do with any thoughts and with any racing of the mind, how to bring ourselves back to the present moment, utilizing the power of our breath. I'm David Jackson, a master instructor with the Oxygen Advantage, and for this little practice, all you're going to need to do is to get yourself in a nice, relaxed, comfortable position. That could be sat down in your favourite chair, that could be lying on your bed, or it could be lying down on the floor. But just adopt yourself into whatever comfortable position you want to take for this little practice, and just relax into your body and just start to become a little bit more aware of your breathing. With the mouth softly closed, your tongue to the roof of the mouth, with the teeth not touching, air just entering through the nostrils, and think about that air coming into the nose rather than up the nose. So we're breathing into the face. You can close your eyes to allow you to go a little bit more internal with your attention, because you're taking away any external distractions. Notice the subtle movements of your breath within your body. Appreciating that when you breathe into the face rather than up the nose, those sensations of movement within the body should be a bit more of a lateral type of expansion rather than a vertical movement of the breath. Take a moment to appreciate that the movement of your body is happening inside, and it's also the movement of your body that's drawing the air in and out. Appreciate that movement is happening on its own. We have this beautiful autonomic function of the breath, where we don't have to actually do anything. We can actually just let it happen. Just appreciate that beautiful sort of construction and design that your body has, that my body has, that all of our bodies have. And just notice that as you've placed your attention on your breathing and the subtle movements that are happening on the inside of you, you may well have not been thinking so much about things happening on the outside of us. But if you have, that's also okay. We're going to use the breath to give us an anchor to come back to when the mind does wander. But appreciate that as you focus some attention on your breathing and you create some stillness within your day, as you're being still now and aware of your breathing, you're not necessarily trying to change your breathing. I haven't given you any cues to change your breathing other than jaw and lips relaxed, with the mouth gently closed, tongue to the roof of the mouth, teeth not touching, and thinking about breathing into the face through the nose rather than up the nose. But we're not trying to control anything. We're just appreciating that the breath is there. There's movements happening inside of us automatically to make the air come in and out. And it's that air that's giving us life. There's something like over 270 billion red blood cells within your body. The number of things within your body, the number of cells, the number of interactions, the number of chemical changes just constantly happening without any need for us to do anything other than just be, is absolutely mind-blowing. It can seem exceptionally complicated. We can potentially be overly scientific at times. We may like the science, we may get confused by it. But either way you look at it, the practical application of breathing your attention to your breath, feeling your breath, appreciating your breath, and we need to be, or if we give ourselves some time to be still, it allows us to notice that subtle breath that's always there in the background, playing our background track for us. But too often we're not aware of it, and that's fine. We don't have to constantly be aware of it, because we've got to do stuff in life. But knowing that it's that friend, that constant that's always there that you can come back to. So now I'd like you to pay attention to the sound the breath is making. And also the sensation within your nostrils, noticing the air as it comes into the nose and out of the nose. As you're thinking about breathing into the face, really pay close attention to how that air feels on the inside of your nostrils, on the skin. And notice that you can make the sensation of the air softer. You can make the sound of your breath gently quieter. And I just invite you to enjoy a few moments of gently breathing in and out through the nose. And appreciating the stillness and the peace that you get when your attention is on the breath. You're making no noise at all. And your breath is so gentle that it's not easy to keep your attention on the breath, because it's become very subtle, because it's become very gentle. It would become, or it has become, easy to almost miss the breath. And then the mind may start wandering. But that's where it's both the great tool. When you notice that the mind has wandered, that your attention isn't on those subtle movements, use the breath to bring yourself back to what's happening in this present moment, which is you're doing nothing else but being still and focusing on the very subtle sensations and movements of your gentle breath. Because it is so gentle, you have to focus to find it. And that's a good thing. You're practicing being able to focus your attention on something that's happening in the present moment. Your breath. Is never in the past, it's never in the future. Your breath is always your anchor to the present moment. Notice when you have to search a little bit for that breath, because it is so gentle now. Notice that increased need of focus and attention to feel and find the breath. You have less capacity for the mind to start wandering, because you're using your attention to feel that very subtle breath. Now when the mind does wander, use the breath as that anchor to bring you back, but it became very useful to have a simple process in order to help us do that. A friend of mine who's a mindfulness meditation coach, Daria Albez, soon to be on the Between Breaths podcast, works with some of the best UFC fighters in the world, and she explained it, the meditation part of bringing your attention back to your breath. She explained it like this, I found very helpful. If you imagine yourself holding a pen in front of you, like create that in your mind's eye, see the pen in your hand, feel the pen in your hand. By observing the pen, by looking at it, by feeling it, by touching it, that observation of it, you know it's separate to you. You don't observe the pen and confuse it for another part of you. You don't think it's an extension of your hand just because you're holding it in your hand. You observe it, you know that it isn't you, it's not even an extension of you, and by simply observing it, you're able to choose to put that pen down. Now it's a little bit more abstract with our thoughts, but I found this metaphor exceptionally helpful with this. Rather than previously people saying, when you notice a thought, observe it and bring yourself back to the breath. Understanding that process in this way, I hope you too will find incredibly helpful. So it's a little bit more abstract with the thought, but when we notice a thought, as soon as you notice it, rather than feeling like we are the thought, by noticing the thought, we immediately become the observer. You observe the thought, just as you observed the pen, and that distinguished and separated you from the pen. When you observe a thought, you're separating yourself from the thought, appreciating that you aren't those thoughts, and that you can then put that thought down, let go of that thought, and then bring your attention back to the breath. And because we've created this stillness, the breath is very gentle. So to bring our attention back to the breath, we have to be focused. And particularly with this session being about calming the racing mind and wanting to try and create more stillness, just invite you to focus your attention on a particular part of the breathing cycle. The favourite part of my breath, not the inhale, not the gentle exhale, but that natural pause between breaths. focus your attention on that gentle, soft pause between the breaths. Between the breaths, there's stillness. In the breath, there's stillness in the body, stillness in the mind. You're still alive, you're not dead, but the body's just having a little pause, a little break from all of the breathing. You might still notice your heart beating maybe during that pause. But enjoy the stillness, the no noise, the no movement of your body in those pauses between breaths. Notice any thoughts that come in, observe them to help you separate from those thoughts and bring your attention back to the breath, and particularly the stillness there is between the breaths. That gentle, subtle pause that happens naturally when we give ourselves some stillness and time to let the breath just naturally slow and naturally become more gentle. And notice when you create that stillness and you appreciate that stillness between the breaths. Notice as we bring this session to a close that the stillness that you created for yourself, the mind was probably a lot calmer, less racing thoughts, hopefully. So I hope that has been helpful, and with practice we become better at focusing our attention where we want it to go. And what can be exceptionally helpful if you do struggle with that racing mind is to just have little glimpses of this throughout your day, rather than necessarily one longer sort of 15-20 minute session like this, which can be great, but often we might not feel like we have enough time for this. And also it can be just as effective, and it is actually really effective, to just do a few minutes here, a few minutes there during the day, so you're not letting things necessarily build up to the point where you're going to find it difficult to stop for 20 minutes. That actually you've had a minute here, a minute there through the day, just being still, just focusing your attention on your breath, calming the mind, particularly for those that find it difficult to switch off at night and the mind is racing at night. Don't just think about doing sort of a nice practice before you go to bed. Think about what you're doing and how many times you're engaging through the day, and just a little bit of checking in with yourself. And the breath is a great way to check in. And it doesn't just reiterate, it doesn't need to be 10 minutes, 20 minutes. It can just be a few minutes here, a few minutes there. And like anything, as you practice, you become better at where you want to place your attention. And when you've checked in a few times during the day, you just give the brain a bit of a chance to process what's going on in some of that stillness, so that it's not trying to do it all at the end of the day when you're lying in bed awake at night. That's something that I used to struggle with an awful lot. And so I really hope that this will help you as it has helped me. So you've been breathing. I've been Jacko. And as we kept it nasal all the way through this, I encourage you to try and keep it nasal as often as you can. But the nasal benefits of nasal breathing are well documented within the literature. There's 30 different functions of the nose that shows it's designed for breathing, none of which the mouth have. So I encourage you to utilize your nose as it was designed to be used, and that is for breathing. If you enjoyed this video, I'd love you to give it a like. I'd love you to hear from you in the comments. And if you would like more videos and get notified of when they are on my YouTube, then I'd love you to subscribe, and then you're going to be able to see and access more of those videos. There's a ton already there, and there's going to be new videos coming out every week and every month as well. Thanks for listening, thanks for breathing, and I hope that this has been a helpful one in helping you to calm your mind.